All right, can everyone hear me loud and clear? Yeah, awesome, awesome. Let me share my screen. Sorry for the wait, everyone. Yeah, long story short, my internet like kind of bugged out again, so I had to go ahead and like pretty much like deal with that. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if this is just like I think this is like a SoCal internet provider service, but we have an internet provider called like Cox, and basically like they're like pretty notorious to be known as like really nice at first, but then like as time goes on, their internet is like not as good. So a lot of people always have to go back in and keep asking them, what's wrong with the internet? What's wrong with the internet? So they made this new system where pretty much it pretty much where like you had to download this app on your phone, and then that's how you reset your internet, like your internet for your house that way. So it takes about 10 minutes to do. I click it on my phone. Everyone loses internet for like 2 minutes, and then it takes like another 8 minutes for us to get like full internet back. So man, it's just it's just super annoying. But I shouldn't be doing it so many times, especially since what is it? I just bought a new internet package. So I don't know what's going on, but super annoying. Anyways, let's get started with the announcements. So, really quickly, just a quick reminder, your resubmission policy for Project 2 again. In case you didn't hear it last time or didn't remember, if you got under a 70% as a grade, you're welcome to redo Project 1. Project 3, you get Project 2. You're welcome to redo Project 2, sorry. You only get one chance to redo it if you got under a 70% chance, okay? 70% grade, okay? So, if you got under 70%, you got until Project 3's due date to resubmit for Project 2. All right, if you get above a 70% the second time, I'll allow you to redo it a second time, but if you get under 70% the second time, then unfortunately I can't let you redo it again. For those of y'all who got above a 70%, well, you're welcome to resubmit it as many times as you want. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And also for those of y'all who would like a critique for their project and like a draw over and a paint over, please set an appointment with me. Yeah, so if you want what we did for the group critiques for Project 2, be sure to send me an email. We'll most likely do a group critique for Project 3, so don't worry if you're worried about not getting Project 3 like critiques. You're probably going to get a Project 3 critique because that's the final outcome, and I like to critique like final outcomes just because like there's more to like usually say about like the decision making that people make and like how things look in the end, etc. So it's a lot more to like kind of like help people out with there. Other than that, these are the homework assignments that are due on the current day. So this is actually due today. So if you haven't turned that in, it's too late. Don't forget, homework is due the moment class starts. So that's the brushwork worksheet that we did right before right before Project 2 ended, I believe. This one, what is it? Last week's intro to Photoshop exercises, and then also we'll be continuing this packet today over here. So I'll be going over more digital painting process, more custom brushes type of stuff. But yeah, these are the homeworks over here. Do we have any questions before we get started with the class today? No, everyone's good. And can everyone? Oh yeah. No, you're good. Okay. Awesome, awesome. So let me go ahead and get my Photoshop. Then what I'm going to do is let's get started with some digital painting. So these were the exercises that I didn't get to do on what is it? A Monday, because y'all wanted me to do the color schemes for Project 3 instead. So I'll be doing these today. So we're going to start off with the second one because we already did the first one on Monday. As y'all remember, we painted these spheres. So today we're going to be painting actual things. So we're going to start off with a bell pepper. And you should have two files. You should have your JPEG, your reference, and you should have paint in this file, which has a giant bell pepper. Please don't trace, okay? So I'm going to make this all white. So I have a white background. What I'm going to do is go to Arrange. So this is a really nice tool for you also use in Photoshop over here. All right. I kind of showed you a workspace already, right? So, you know, we have our different workspaces over here. We can always reset our workspace. We can save our workspace too if we really, really like it. So these are where we can like kind of go back and, you know, click on things that, you know, we've saved for our interface if we ever want to come back to them. So going back to test, there we go. Now, Arrange is a really nice tool to use because what it does is it takes the windows that are up here and it consolidates them into different tabs. All right, so you can always take apart your windows like this and like spread them apart, and you can have one area for reference, one area for your drawing. But you know, if you're not a big fan of this kind of layout, you can go to Arrange and you could have these options over here. So we got, you know, two windows in different styles. We got 3 windows if you had 3 windows open, and so on. So just a really nice tool to know. I wish I knew this when I was you know, when I first started, because that would have been a lot easier to like, you know, set up my references and things like that. But yeah, I really like using this sort of view because it's just nice to have, you know. It's like as if you had like a piece of paper in front of you and for the reference and one piece of paper for your drawing, right? So to get started on the digital painting process, here's what I'm going to do. So the reason why I want you all to do these exercises is because I want you all to get used to like painting and coloring and sketching on Photoshop. All right. So, you know, when we're doing these, you know, we're going to be using our brush tool, we're going to be using our eraser tool, but more importantly, we're also going to be sketching. So something that I like to start off with is within my custom brushes is I like to use my pencil tool. So I talked about my pencil tool like I think like last week, right? Something like that. And it's right here. It says AJC pencil. And this is a really nice pencil tool. It feels like a pencil. It really like has like that pencil sort of like graininess in there. So it's a really nice tool to use for sketching. And sometimes I'll use it for coloring too when I'm doing like demos and stuff. If I'm like trying to, you know, re-replicate like color pencil, then I would use it. But it is like still pretty hard to color with because it's like digital. You can always make the brush a little bit bigger, but it does take away like, you know, those like little marks that you would usually get with like color pencil. But again, first thing I would do is just kind of do some sketching. So again, kind of start off with just kind of like a basic shape. Let's actually break this down into a form too, so that we can get it a little bit more. So maybe start off with like a cylinder, kind of like that. And I'm not going to be too picky about this picture in terms of like, you know, proportions. Like if your proportions are slightly off and the painting looks nice, I'm not going to, you know, dock points for that. If your proportions like super off though, then yeah. And then from here, just kind of build in these parts of the bell pepper, kind of like that. So as y'all can kind of see, I start off with kind of a basic form, and I kind of just started breaking up that form into its individual parts. That's probably the easiest way for me to like kind of draw things. Let's clean up a little bit. Let's get this a little bit more accurate. There we go. Start cleaning up my lines. On another note, kind of random, but for those of y'all who did the extra credit, thank you so much for the feedback. I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate, you know, all the things you have to tell me so far about the class. I'll definitely try to implement some of those things within the class for the rest of the semester in the future. So yeah, thank you so much again. I always appreciate feedback on my classes. And then I've already put in the extra credit on what is it? on Canvas. So if you did the assignment but you didn't get extra credit, please email me and send me over your worksheet if that's the case. Okay. So I think this is actually like good enough for my sketch. Let me just clean up a little bit of mistakes I see in there. But yeah, again, I'm not going to be too picky about it though. All right. So I think this is actually pretty good. I'm just going to stop right here for the sketch. So once you have the sketch, what I like to do sometimes is instead of excuse me, instead of using like a black outline, I like to use like a brown outline. So a really good trick to kind of know is when you go to hue and saturation, and if you press colorize, you can actually, oh, whoops, wrong one. There we go. So and you press colorize, it should change the color of your lines, okay, or anything in the image into one color. All right. So for example, if I did it to this bell pepper here, and I go to hue and saturation, I can change my hue, and it will change the hue of everything on there. So if I shift my reds over here, my reds are turning into purple, and then my green, I believe that was up there before, is turning into red. But if I press colorize, it's going to make everything the same color, but stick with the same value. So boom. See, now everything's a red. Kind of like this. And this is a really nice trick to know because this is how you change the color of your lines, or at least one of the ways. So again, I go to hue and saturation. I'm going to go to keep this on master. Go to colorize. And sometimes you're going to have to lighten or darken your lines. So I'm going to lighten my lines a little bit. So you can kind of see they're kind of like a brownish tone now. Pump up my saturation. Push down my brightness so it's kind of brownish. I'm kind of going for that like reddish, brownish, traditional like, oil painting, underpainting sort of like sketch color. So like a burnt sienna. So I think this is looking pretty good. So from here, I got my sketch layer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start blocking in. So when y'all are blocking in, you want to block in with like kind of the base tone and the base value, okay? You're welcome to do this in value and then add color if you'd like. I'm totally fine with that. If you wanted to practice, doing that for the project, that's okay with me. I'm just going to straight paint this though, because that's just the way I am. But, doing it in black and white first is not a bad idea either. But, when I am like looking at this though, and I want to break this down into value and color, I can like quickly see like which tones I kind of have in there. So if I look at this, if I hold Alt and I use my eyedropper tool, I can quickly see what color my shadows are, what color like some of my base tones are, my light tones, my very, very light tones, as y'all can kind of see over here, right? So this can really, really help you out because you can start kind of nitpicking out which areas have what kind of tone. So in this, I know that in the shadow, it's probably going to be like this dark green. My midtones is going to be like this middle green. I have this light green, and I have this highlight. So breaking it down into like just like basic shades first. Then I'm going to grab like a base tone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start blocking in. Now I could block in with my brush, but sometimes what I'll do is I'll block in with my selection tool instead. Just because it makes it a little bit faster. And don't be afraid to use your tools for any of these, really. Don't be afraid to use your digital tools. I was really, really scared of taking shortcuts before because I felt like, I don't know, like ashamed of it, I guess, is a better way to kind of put it. I was actually talking about this with another student, and basically I was telling them how, I kind of learned from another teacher that I shouldn't be afraid of using my tools. I shouldn't be afraid of using these shortcuts because they're there for us, Kind Kind of like how we, what is it, for like parents, like, we, parents give us so much. Sometimes I feel, really, really bad, that my mom's always like doing so much for me. It's like, oh, I should be the one doing so much, right? But then, like, she was telling me, don't feel bad about Jesse. I'm your mom. I'm here to help you. So, got it blocked in, super, super fast. Now let's do the stem. I have to keep my block-ins just one color.
How do you do the two pages side to side thing?
So you're gonna go to Windows. You're gonna go to Arrange, and then you're gonna go to these ones over here. So under Arrange.
Okay. Is it the vertical?
I use the vertical, I believe. Yeah. But you can play around with those and find one that works for you. Because I change around a lot, if I have to be honest.
Oh, by the way, Professor Pop?
Yo, what's up, Michael?
Yeah, for the, that sketch you did for the bell peppers?
Yeah, what's up? What's up?
Use did you use the gradient color to move to burnt, umber burnt? Burnt sienna?
I use hue and saturation. So you're gonna go to Image, Adjustments, and Hue and Saturation, and then you're gonna press Colorize, and then it should change the color of your lines on your sketch layer.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Alright, thank you.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Okay. So I have everything kind of blocked in. Now what I'll do is kind of just clean up a little bit. Oop. Just kind of clean up a little bit. Perfect. Awesome. And then here's what I'll do next. Is now that I have everything blocked in on one layer like this, I can take advantage of my selection tools. Alright, so if I go to my magic wand and I click my red, I should be able to select my reds. Whereas when I go to my green and I click that, it should be able to select my greens. Alright, now before I continue, I want to teach y'all a really cool trick on selections as well. Alright, so I kind of want to go over channels a little bit. And I'll kind of go over, not too much today, but just like very, 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 very basically today. And then I want to go over a trick that you can kind of use for channels for like your selections. But basically, the way that you can kind of think about channels is for anyone who's ever taken like, a science class that talks about color of light, we all know that, white light is a combination of all the colors, right? So if we, it's like kind of like the opposite of like mixing paint. If we mix like red, yellow, and blue, then we technically get like a muddy brown. But if we mix red, yellow, and blue light, then we're going to get like a white light, So we kind of have red, green, and blue channels here, and these are for web colors. Okay, these are for like computer colors, computer pixels. All right, RGB, right? And we can switch over to CMYK on top over here if we want like printer colors. All right. But RGB, okay, if I turn off each of these, like, with all of them on, it gives us all of the colors we have. But as we turn them off, what they're going to do is it's going to turn off all the green tone, all the greens on the channel. So it doesn't necessarily mean like it's going to be like every green, but it's going to have like everything that has green in it is going to turn off, So, these are kind of how the channels work. I'll go over more of it in detail like later on. But as of right now, what I want to kind of show y'all is, so if I go to my layers, okay, and I have a selection like this, and I go to select, and I go to save selection. This can be red bell pepper, or red part. How about that? Red part. I press OK. What's going to happen is when I go back to my channels, I'll have a red part in my channels, kind of like this. And what's so nice about it is that I can actually use this as a selection now. So if I hold Control and I click the thumbnail icon here, it'll select the red part for me. And that means that, and it doesn't matter what I do in my normal, in this area anymore. Like I can even add I can even get like a blue part and go straight on top of it like this on the same layer. But if I go to channels, I will still always have that selection saved. So it saves your selection so that you can paint a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to save a red and a green channel. Stem. Awesome. So now that I have that, I'm just going to use Magic Wand for now over here because it's still red. But now that I have this here, what I can do is I could start working on my shading. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to kind of pump down my line work a little bit to maybe like a 30 to 40% sort of area. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to zoom out. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of working on my values a little bit. So what I like to do is I like to get my soft brush. Yeah. Hello?
Just so I understand that this is less of an issue when you're at the local color stage, but as your painting becomes more complex, you can save your paths or your selections, and then you can always return to them. So they kind of leave a nice overview of the major shapes.
Exactly. Because a lot of times, like, layers, they get kind of messy and like there's tons of them over there. So what I like to do before I kind of get started is if I finish like a block in, I'll like save all my selections. So that like, if I, for example, accidentally like merge my block in layer, or I end up painting on top of it, or I merge all my layers together because I needed to, flatten some stuff, I'll always still have certain things blocked in. So a good example would be, what's up?
Actually, it allows you to, it allows you to flatten your project because you still have your main paths all as selections.
Exactly.
This is how photographers do it. Photographers do that all the time because everything comes out as one flattened image, and then they break things out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a really nice trick to use for like painting too, because like you were kind of saying, it just helps kind of organize these things a lot better in the long run. But yeah, for example, like a painting that I kind of use that one for, man, I always have a really hard time finding this painting. Oh here, grad show work. Yeah, it's actually like this one over here. Oh, I'm so dumb. I should just go on my website. I always forget I have a website. So the painting I used it for would be like this one over here. So like this is actually like almost flattened down, but I have my orange rock separated into one selection. So these two things over here, I have my foreground over here separated into one section. I have all the rocks in the background separated into its own selection. So, and then these two rocks on the floor in the background separated into its own selection. So, after I have all those selections, I can just work on the shadows inside it and it will never ever break my shape. So if I have a really cool shape design, I can work within that shape because I have this issue where I'll paint over my shape and change it as I like kind of work. And sometimes that's not a really good thing because if I have a really cool shape to start with, I want to make sure it stays that way. So by having my selections, it's a lot easier for me to retain that shape, kind of like what I'm doing right now, and kind of start working in all the different little shades and stuff that I have in there.
Seems like a better option than what I used to do.
Oh yeah? What did you do?
Well,
If I
for
may
the
ask.
shading selections, I just made like 30 layers and used the thing where you hold
You hold control? Oh,
clip between the layer and basically like lock it down to the selection beneath it.
uh,
I'm so
oh, like a clipping mask?
yeah.
Oh,
So
actually,
I would have so many layers like
Actually, yeah, actually, clipping mask is pretty good too. Clipping mask works pretty well too. Actually, you know what? I can show you guys the clipping mask method really quickly too, just so you guys kind of have that too. So, what John's kind of talking about is, so you can do the same thing with the clipping mask, but the thing about a clipping mask is it holds the shape of the silhouette that you have it under. So, for example, if I make a new layer over here and I make it a clipping mask, it's going to kind of look like this. All right. So let's actually, let's do that. There we go. So now I have a clipping mask on top of this shape here, right? Which is my bell pepper. So from there, if I make if I color on the clipping mask, it should not go out of that shape that I have colored in. So this is also another method that you can do it too. As I was kind of saying earlier, this is just one out of the many methods that I use. But the nice thing about channels is that you'll always have these parts kind of separated on a separate, it's a little bit more organized, even though it takes a little bit more work to do to like save and all that kind of stuff. And you'll always kind of have, your selections here in case you need to come back to it. When I use a clipping mask, I use it for certain parts that I would say like I use it a lot for thumbnailing. I use it a lot more for thumbnailing just because like for thumbnails, I'm just always using big silhouettes, I'm doing something kind of quicker. So, it's prone to change. So sometimes I'll change the shape of like, the silhouette of the thing that I'm trying to use the clipping mask on. But generally, these are both two really, really good ways to just kind of work. But anyways, back to...
No, I'm not very good with getting the selections looking really, like, correct. But the other thing is, like, I've also noticed that with selections,
Mhm.
In areas where, like, okay, if I have the red pepper selected,
Uh-huh.
red part, the green part, there's always this weird line that separates the green part from the red part. Yeah. But I guess you just paint over that.
I would just paint over it, There's a lot of stuff I just hand fix because it's easier that way. So right now, what I'm kind of doing is I'm just kind of building up some shadow. Whenever you're thinking about form, the first thing you want to think about before like your core shadow, before your highlight, before anything is just light side, dark side. So finding out where your light source is coming from basically. After you have like light side versus dark side, then you can think of like, value area 1, value area 2, value area 3, you know. So before I start thinking of any highlight stuff, I should just only try to get down like, my light side versus my dark side.
I have a problem with the brush tool for some reason right now.
Uh-huh. Well, what's up?
So usually when it's on the brush tool, it will just like make a simple like strip of paint. But for some reason on my end, I have to like make a constant strain in the same area to get that color that I wanted originally.
Is your opacity on the top like not on 100?
No, it's not.
Okay, yeah, set it on 100. So otherwise it's going to do that. So opacity, yeah, it kind of works like you can kind of think of it as a marker, I guess. Like if you only have like if your marker is only like 50% full, you're gonna have to paint in the same area like a couple times to get it to be black. Whereas like if it's like really really high, if there's a lot of like ink in there, then it's going to be like really really nice and opaque. Did that fix it up?
Oh yeah, it definitely fixed it up. I was like, what the hell is going on right there?
Yeah, that's Photoshop for you guys. Half of the time, it's like, man, this is looking cool. Then all of a sudden, it's like, what the heck is going on?
You press the wrong button and then like, oh gosh, what's happening? Why is this upside down?
Pretty much. So from here, I'm going to start kind of building more shades. So again, like keep it kind of simple. Don't go too crazy on this. So start kind of building a little bit more value. Start kind of pushing more light. And then I switch off between tons of brushes, y'all. So, you know, don't just stick with one brush the whole time. But if you're going to stick with one brush, I would say the round brush is probably going to be your best friend. The round brush can do everything. Like the normal round brush that's in all programs is, in my opinion, like the best brush. Or the best brush for any, if you had to pick one brush for to match all situations, it would be the round brush. Start kind of building some coolness in the reflective zone. So a lot of times, like when I do the reflective light, I'll try to keep it a little bit cooler. I'll also keep my shadows a little bit cooler too. Anybody have any questions so far? No? Okay.
By the way, Professor Pot?
What's up, Michael?
Yeah, so can you smudge them or it's not really make it any different?
I try not to smudge paint. Yeah, I try not to smudge paint because it doesn't look that good most of the time. Like for example, like if I get the smudge tool and let me just get a normal smudge. So if I get like a round circle smudge and I try to like blend, you know, it'll look. I mean, to be honest, like you can get some pretty cool textures, like if you like know what you're doing. But what I see a lot of people doing is they don't know how to smudge. You know, like they'll rely on it for blending. They'll be like, oh, you know, this part's not perfect. I'm just gonna keep smudging this one area until it looks perfect. And then like what's gonna happen is right now it looks kind of cool because I have like really clean brushwork and then really like wild brushwork in some area. But then like what ends up happening is if everything is like all like this, and it's all blended and stuff, like, people it's gonna be really hard to control and it's not gonna look too good. So I would say if you all can, try not to rely on the smudge to blend.
Alright, cool. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying don't ever use it, by the way, everyone. I'm just saying don't rely on it. It's not the blending tool. It's the smudge tool. It's a way to blend, but not always the right way. Because as designers, right, we have to make choices. That's the point of being a designer. We make choices that best fit the situation that we're put in, right? So we have to make sure that, when we're designing the picture, what we're trying to aim for, in terms of aesthetic.
The part that bugs me about digital painting, like reference things, is
Hmm.
the complexity of the layers of light, and also just stressing out about, oh goodness, what brush should I use?
Oh man, yeah, it's tough. Eventually, though, you'll find a couple brushes that I'm sure you already have them too. A couple brushes that you just use all the time that can do mostly everything. Like for me, it's like the square brush, the round brush I use a lot. I've also been using this one a lot over here. Well, I always use black brush over here a lot. I really like A10 brush because it's similar to the black brush, but I think it's a little bit more painterly. So if I start kind of painting with this, y'all can kind of see it has some really nice brush strokes actually. Y'all can kind of see though, as I'm kind of painting this, how a selection is really helping me out, right? Something that Jonathan mentioned before too is if you press Control H, you can hide your selection and it's still there. So feel free to use that too. That's a really great tool I like to use as well when I'm painting. But yeah, I really enjoy this A10 brush as well, y'all. It's actually a brush I got from A10 Zana's like brush pack. Anybody familiar with that artist? No? Well, I'm sure y'all are familiar with Naughty Dog and Uncharted, right? So A10 Zana does some really cool. He has some really cool tutorials that y'all can actually like buy and download. By the way, I don't work for him, so it's not like I'm trying to like advertise his stuff or anything. Oh, what? This is free? Are you guys? Y'all gotta pick this up now. Yeah. These two paintings, you could just like dissect his PSDs. Yeah, I'll throw this on the chat. So so yeah, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Gumroad, but in Gumroad you can actually like download and buy tutorials for like really cheap. So and like but yeah, I buy and download these all the time, and they usually give you their brushes, they give you their files, they give you like video recordings that you can just keep forever. But yeah, Eitan Zahner does some super cool environment art. So let's take a look at some of his stuff. By the way, can everyone hear me loud and clear?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just want to double check because my internet's kind of like shoddy today. But yeah, super cool stuff. Wow. Dang, it's like all crumbling. This is one of his more popular pictures here. Yeah, beautiful artwork. He has some amazing brushes too. Oh, this one's really nice. So much good brushwork. But yeah, I really enjoy his work. I would definitely recommend to go and grab some of his tutorials if you've never grabbed them before, because you can get some really cool material out of it. But yeah, anyways, this is one of his brushes over here. As y'all can kind of see, it has some really beautiful brushwork, as y'all can kind of see over here. And when I'm trying to make brushwork really prominent, I like to keep my brush a little bit bigger. Because I feel like bigger brushwork looks better, usually, especially from the start. When you start tightening up, that's when you use smaller brushwork. Because that means you're working on detail. If you're using such small brushes, kind of like, you know, I always tell my students who do like traditional art, when I'm teaching like traditional painting, I always tell them like, don't grab the small brush until you're ready for detail, because you're not working on detail right now. But then for some reason, like, you know, the little kids, they love grabbing like the tiniest brush that they can find. It's adorable, but sometimes it's like, dude, come on, man, you've been in my class for like 6 years. You know. Me? Oh, I'm just I've already picked them out over here.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
like no, it's so like softly gradated that I kind of yeah, I don't know how you go how you I just don't know how you decide what color you should use even when you're doing that picking phase when everything has such a soft gradation.
Well, I just kind of break it down into like 4 values first: a dark, a medium like dark, like a medium light, and then maybe like a light tone. And then from there, like what I kind of think about is just kind of like my temperature of light and temperature of color. So for example, if I have like a sphere over here, or let's just say I have a bell pepper again. How about that? Let's use a bell pepper as example, since we're doing a bell pepper. So I know like the base color is going to be red. And I know the light is probably kind of yellowish, and the reason is because like it starts to become kind of orange on the left side. So that means that if I have like a yellow light over here, that means that most of the lights that are hitting it are probably going to make it orangey. Whereas like most of the shadow is probably going to end up getting a little bit of blue. So that's going to start pushing this red into like more of like the magenta zone. So everything on the dark side will start to slightly turn a little bit more magenta, but not super magenta, just like a little bit. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I'm determining it. Is like you'll see a lot more oranges on the light side and a little bit more of like these pinks and magentas on like the dark side. And I'm also just kind of playing around with brushwork. I'm not like trying to make things all nice and smooth. I'm just painting it. I'm just trying to get the shapes of each of the shadows. When y'all are painting, okay, or when y'all are adding value to like your digital sketches, you have to think about it kind of this way. When the point of a painting is not to make things look like a photo. I think I've already talked about this. We have something called a camera, and a camera can do way better than we can at making something look realistic. So the idea of a painting is to simplify. So I'm looking at what shape is the shadow, what shape are these lights, what shape is the shadow, what shape do I have to paint in order to kind of make it look like that. Let's get my charcoal brush again. I also really like this charcoal brush. I don't know if y'all have probably noticed by now, but yeah, this charcoal brush is really nice too. Okay, and then let's start working on the green part a little bit now. Okay. Like that. Perfect. And some really bright light. And just a little bit of reflective light. Reflective light just makes everything pop out so much more realistically, y'all. The number one mistake I see people do, especially people who know how to shade but haven't mastered it, is that they always forget a reflective light. And then from there, I'll kind of go in, start kind of cleaning up my edges a little bit. Add a little bit of highlight. Kind of like that. Start working on some of my darks.
Do you have to make an account to download these?
Download my brushes.
Xana?
That Zana. You might be able to use like a guest account, but I can't quite remember. But it's better to have an account so that when you do download it, it saves it to your account, and if it ever goes on sale, you wouldn't have to buy it again. So it like adds it to your library, kind of like a Steam library or a video game library, like a video game cloud, where like or some sort of like cloud device, you know, like as long as you have it in your account, like you'll always be able to like grab it again. So I would recommend making an account, even though it may not be necessary. A little bit of light. And y'all can see I'm actually like focusing my brushwork a lot too. Trying not to like over render things. Because I could just go in and start, you know, blending everything in, but again, I'm trying to keep it a little bit more on the painterly side. And your work does not, this exercise, it does not have to be all shape-based too. Like right now, like I'm doing more of a shape-based painting. If you wanted to do it with line art and color it in with line art, that's fine with me as well. I don't mind that. But I do expect, you know, it to be, you know, at the same level of finish it would be as this. So it should still look like a pretty completed piece. A pretty completed study.
Does not have to look like the photo.
No. Yeah. The point of unless like your goal is to make things photorealistic, I would say like never ever aim to like make it look like the photo. Like you can aim for it, but don't feel like, you know, upset for not reaching it either, if that makes sense. Like my teacher was always telling me, because one time I was doing actually like it was when I was doing that same project with the cliffs, like this one over here. Like, and then he told me to do studies, and then like I was taking really long on one study, and when he saw it, like, you know, it was really like realistic, and then he was just like, he was like, Jesse, you're doing it wrong, and I was like, how does it? I was like, what do you mean? Like this looks like the photo, and then he was like, the point of doing a, he's like, I know that you know how to do it like a photo. He's like, what I want you to do now is take that photo and make something, you know, and study something out of it. Pick something out of it to like study and like make it look like the photo, but not exactly like the photo. You know, she was saying like, because like art isn't about like copying. You know, we copy to get better at technique, but we also copy things as reference. So he was saying sometimes I might just want to reference the colors, so I'll focus on the colors. Sometimes I'll reference, you know, just the way it looks, and then maybe like play around with the shapes after. So maybe like make everything all like, you know, exaggerated and stuff. So he was saying basically to, you know, it doesn't have to look like the photo when you study. The point of studying is to use the photo to make something with it. And unless your goal is to make it look like the photo, it isn't otherwise. And then from here, let's do a shadow really quick. I'm probably not going to work on this after the break just because I want to move on to the other stuff. But for the shadow, I'll get like a round hard brush first, actually, believe it or not. And the first thing I'll do is I'll actually kind of like sketch. Kind of like this. Perfect. Okay. And then go to filter, and then go to blur, and then go to Gaussian blur. All right. And from there, you can actually kind of pump up your Gaussian blur radius. So this is a really nice blur tool I like to use just because it kind of uniformly blurs everything. I'm gonna press OK. Go back with go back to here actually. Let's hit Control, hold Control, and click the thumbnail to kind of make a selection. I'll go back with a soft brush and start kind of adding darker shadow. And the way you want to think about shadow is darkest where less light is being reached. So usually, you know, if there's no light reaching an area, it's going to look pretty dark. In this case, also, so in this case, it's going to be down here. Also, shadows, cast shadows tend to be closer as they get, I mean, they tend to be darker as they get closer to the object. So we should see kind of a shift in gradient. Get my eraser, soft eraser, but make it kind of small. Clean up your edges. Kind of like that. Get a big eraser. Make kind of that transition. Just like that. And then here's another trick. Don't keep your shadows black. Make them a color. Make them a temperature. It always looks nicer to make a temperature out of your shadow. And then from there, what we can do, let's make a new layer, put it on multiply, and what we can do is we can actually kind of play around with some of our contrast a little bit. So the way that I'm going to do it is, again, never use black. Just use like a purplish gray. Let's make our selection again. Kind of like that. Lower the opacity. There we go. Get a soft eraser. And then you can start kind of spot erasing areas that you want to come out a little bit more. Kind of fix up the blend, fix up the reflective light. And then from there, if you wanted to kind of push it a little bit further, you can use color dodge. It already pretty much looks done to me. Like, it looks more like the photo without the shadow, but I like to push my contrast just a little bit. Color dodge. Let's add some nice color. Nice color in the lights here. Let's pull out some of those yellows. There we go. Okay, I think this looks good. Only thing that bothers me though now is there should be a little bit of light here too. Let's lose that edge actually. Kind of like that. There we go. That's really cool. I like that. All right. So that concludes my bell pepper demo. Does anyone have any questions before I let everyone out on break? What's up? Mm-hmm.
How to make the blue preset on the left corner? I tried to put the brush, but it won't show.
Okay, so to do that, again, what you want to do is, so you want to double click the tool set that you downloaded first, and when you double click it, it should open up. So once you've downloaded, once you've double clicked it and you opened up Photoshop, what you want to do is you want to click the little pancake stack on the top. So if you can't find that, go to Windows, go to Tool Presets down here. Click the little pancake stack, and then you have to make sure it's on Sort by Tool and Show Current Tool Presets. And make sure show all tool presets is off. So it should be kind of like this.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Is it working now?
I will try now.
All right, sounds good. Anybody else have any questions before I let y'all go on break? No? All right then. So let's go ahead and take a break. So right now it's almost 9 o'clock. So well, it is 9 now. So why don't we come back at 9:15? Yeah.
I asked this. I don't know. You can hear?
Yeah. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh. Yeah, so
Uh,
this portrait painting thing, would you suggest that, like, once we do each phase, just copy the layer and move it to have it work on the ground 4 times?
you only got so for this one you just gotta paint it once, and then I just expect it to look like a final outcome. These are here just to help you with the process, but you don't necessarily have to follow the process either.
Oh,
Mm.
okay. I thought you had to paint all 4. Alright.
No, you just gotta paint it once. So it's just here. So it's just here to kind of help people out with finding out where all the shadow areas are, and then maybe how to start building up from there. But I'm most likely going to use this process and and also a little bit of my own.
Brandon asked something in the chat.
Brandon, let's see. Oh, thanks for a heads up. So Brandon, you can set one up with me via email or actually email is probably better. Yeah, so if you want to just send me an email, that's fine. This week, the only time I can kind of put you on right now would be, let's see.
Oh, wow. Are you gonna draw that?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I'll go over that.
Yeah.
So give me a quick moment, Brandon. There's one person I have not put on the calendar yet, and I just want to double check. It's for Thursday. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, I'll be free on Friday morning, Brandon. So if you wanted to do Friday morning at like 11, I can meet up with you Friday morning at 11. For your question, Melly, I can kind of show you all how to do that in a bit. Okay, sounds good, Brandon. Let me put you on right now, and just let me like kind of throw in my let me put in my Thursday appointment too, really quick. So, all right, and then we got awesome, perfect. Just a heads up, y'all. My week is pretty full for appointments now. For those of y'all who need to set an appointment now with me, you may have to do one for next week. So just want to throw that out there for everyone. Um, let's see. If you want to push vibrancy, there's a couple ways that I would kind of do it. So let's just say like I paint this in. So I'm just gonna do a really quick really quick painting. Just like a really quick color in.
This is more like underpainting, to be honest.
This is more like an underpainting, but I'm just doing a quick demo for one of the students right now on like vibrancy.
Oh,
Yeah. So this is oh no, maybe this person has like red eyes or something. I don't know. And then we can push some tones.
it's vibrant in a sort of way.
Yeah. So for vibrancy, Melly, something I like to kind of play around with is so There's a whole thing called color vibrancy, which would be something that I'll probably have to go over with you on another time, just because color vibrancy takes like it's like a whole lecture in itself. But if I really, really want to make things feel a little bit more like punchy, I would maybe like pump up the saturation a little bit. And also try to like pump up a lot of tones if I can. So for example, I always try to make sure that everything I color with is more of a temperature than a val. It's values involved, but I think about temperature a lot. That's too purple. It looks like someone punched him in the throat. So let's just say I kind of have something like this, but I really want to like punch it out a little bit more. Maybe even for the hair, instead of using like a black, I can kind of push it more of like a blue. And then maybe on the highlights over here, we can kind of push it. I don't know, something like that. But then let's just say I kind of want to push out the colors more. This is already pretty vibrant, to be honest. So I don't know how much more vibrant I can like push this out in sort of in terms of like, saturation. But I like to use the saturation tool over here. And basically, as like I was kind of saying on Monday, if you put it on something very saturated, it'll like push the saturation a lot more. So you can kind of see over here, it's starting to pop out a lot more. Kind of like that. You can get some really like, almost like this glitchy, like cyberpunk, what is it? Spider-Verse sort of look over here. So it's a really, really cool way to just kind of like punch out your colors a little bit. And it still looks like, despite how vibrant this is, it still looks pretty like, balanced. It doesn't look like it's hurting my eyes too much, but that's just kind of where I would like, where I would kind of start off with. But we can definitely talk about it more during sometime this, during our appointment. So, or a separate appointment, whatever works better for you. But yeah, we can talk about it more then. But yeah, this would be like one way I would do it, which is using the saturation layer and just like pulling out more saturation. Sorry, I just want to catch up with the chat really quick, y'all. Okay. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure there's no more questions and stuff. But yeah, hopefully that helps out a little bit first, Melly. But yeah, we can go over it more in detail and specific to, something that maybe if there's a certain project that, you wanted to you needed help on doing that with, like I'll be more than happy to like kind of walk that through with you. But I'll kind of start off doing something like this. But anyways, back to the class. So we're gonna get started on doing this demo over here. All right, and then for the Leonidas demo, if I don't get to it today, there's a video on it. So it's a video that I like to send to all of my digital sketching and painting classes, and I like them to try this out once. Usually I don't demo this. Usually I don't demo this, and I just have everyone kind of work on it through the video, kind of as like a test of like, did you get it or not sort of situation. But I think I'm probably gonna go over this one a little bit, just to kind of show you all a little bit more on how I like to use texture brushes and stuff. So before we do get started though, why don't we, how about this? I'm gonna give you all a choice. Can you type in the chat who wants me to do the portrait and who wants me to do the Leonidas painting? Because I kind of feel like if I just do the Leonidas painting, like the portrait should be kind of a piece of cake. But yeah, do y'all want to vote really quick? So we got one portrait, painting. What else? Anyone else want to throw in a vote? Leonidas, portrait, portrait, portrait. Anyone else? Okay. It looks like portrait is winning by a little bit. Okay. Well, I'll do both. I'll just do both. But we'll start with portrait. If I don't finish this today, I'll jump to the Leonidas painting after. What I have planned for y'all on Monday, though, just so y'all kind of can get, just so y'all kind of, what is it? Just so y'all kind of know what's coming up for Monday is we will probably go over stamping. So I'm going to show y'all a little bit on custom shapes on Monday. Show y'all how I come up with thumbnails using custom shapes and how to make custom shapes and custom brushes too. So that's going to be super fun. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm actually going to move this here. It's a little bit easier for me. Okay, so you should have this thing called paint in this file, number 3. So that should be for the portrait over here. Again, I'm not looking for this is not a we're not trying to paint. We're not trying to do portraits in this class primarily, so I'm not going to be too picky about the proportions. They're slightly off. So don't worry if it's like slightly off or anything like that. But I will like, I do want this to be more of like painting practice. So for this one, it's going to be more in grayscale. And it is pretty detailed. So that's why I kind of want it in grayscale, is that y'all can kind of focus more on just mostly like, getting the form blending and stuff like to look right. So really, really quickly, again, we're going to break this down into basic shapes. If you've never drawn a head before, all right, usually it's started with the circle and then followed by a middle line kind of telling us where the middle of the face is. All right, so to me, like this is a little bit slanted like this. And then afterwards, what's usually like to done is we draw in the chin shape. Kind of like that. Then let's get the gesture of the neck. And let's think about our shoulders. So our shoulders are tilted like that. A little bit more. The eyes. The nose. The mouth. And I'm not going to go over face proportions too much, but just so y'all kind of know, when we draw this middle line, first of all, the thing y'all want to know about head proportions is that for heads and faces and bodies, we follow certain guidelines, but they doesn't necessarily mean that every person has those proportions. All right, for example, usually the eyes are going to be in the middle of this middle line. Is that right for everybody? No. But generally, it's going to have that sort of proportion. So what I usually do is I tell people, especially if you're doing a reference, find out where the middle line is first. So if I look down here, find out where the middle line is first, and then from there you can decide where it has to be. So if this is my middle line, then I would say it's a little bit under that middle line. So I'm probably going to have my eyes a little bit under that middle line. So it's probably going to fit like right here. And then in between the eyes and the chin, we got the nose in the middle somewhere. So again, look at your proportions. Look at, how much space is here to here, how much space is here to here. If this is like the chin, this is like halfway, right? So to me, if I look at this, it's almost about the same, maybe a little bit more for the chin. So just kind of looking at those things, start kind of getting the eye. Let's get the eyebrow. Get the nose. Again, I'm not going to go over human proportions too much, so it's not a portrait class or a character. I will go over like human proportions a little bit later. So we will have like portrait sketching, like head sketching exercises and stuff like when we do our characters. But as of right now, I just want you all to kind of focus on the painting a little bit more, or like the sketching and drawing, the process part of digital media. Then we got our ears. Usually ears are from the top of the eyebrow to the bottom of the nose, but since this person's looking down a little bit, it's going to be a little bit higher. We got the shoulder. We got the other shoulder. Okay, perfect. And then usually from the bottom of the nose to the chin is the same size as the bottom of the nose to the eyebrow. And then from the eyebrow to the very top, that's going to be where the hairline starts. Just get that in. And the hair sits on the head like a helmet does. So when you're drawing this, you want to make sure that your hair goes above your cranium a little bit. I see this mostly happening with like people who don't have experience drawing characters or just humans in general, but they'll like draw the hair, like if they have like short hair, they'll have it start from like the skin of their head. But there's actually a little bit of space in between the head and the hair that just because hair is like kind of fluffy. So it's gonna like poof up. There we go. Okay. Kind of like that. And then let's start working on the eyes. And for the eyes, don't make them too big. Our generation has or at least the generation where anime came out, and plus is a better way of saying it, has a tendency of drawing eyes too big, and it's because we grew up watching anime and drawing a lot of stuff like that. You could say also like within like the 80s to 90s era too. When cartoons, when there's tons of cartoons and stuff, because faces on cartoons are so big, like a lot of us, especially people who are who want to do animation and have been drawing cartoons a lot, they'll tend to draw their eyes a little bit too big first. Now, I'm not saying all people do that, but it's a common mistake that I see, especially amongst, like I said, animators or people who like anime and animations, just because like we tend to subconsciously do. What's up? Yeah, it's a little bit too exaggerated sometimes when people do it. So just be mindful is what I'm saying. Like don't draw it too big. And then have a good sketch too. Part of the reason why I chose a portrait is a portrait usually requires a pretty good sketch for most people before starting on. You will find some people who just go straight in, like Andy Griffin and Wang Ji Lee, but like but they still have really, really good sketching foundations under it, you know. It's all about having good foundations when you want to make good even like good abstract art. Like believe it or not, a lot of the abstract artists that you all see that make like really like, stuff that you just be like, what the heck, I can do this in like 2 seconds on my own. They probably know how to draw and design quite well realistically. I'm not saying all of them do, but most of them I'm guessing do. They just choose to do things like that. So good foundations in art is super important. You know, like Gordon Ramsay, you know, he probably knows how to peel potatoes really well. We never see him do it, but he probably can, you know, like super, super well. He probably can, well, he definitely can cut really well. I've seen his knife skills on YouTube and MasterChef. He can take parts of a lobster, like, and make it edible that I never knew that, you know, you could eat those parts. And then the nose. So usually the size of the nose is going to be around the size of, you know, these parts of the, like where these parts of the eye kind of come down, like the ends. You'll usually get like the nose here. Just think about the structure a little bit. Let's break it down. Got our shadow. Erase everything we don't need. I think I drew my eyes a little too big, actually. Just a little bit. Nice. This is looking pretty good. Oh no. Oh my gosh. Thank goodness. Let me save really quick. Oh man, that was close. I almost had to start over.
Why? What'd you do?
My Photoshop freezes up every now and then. And then you specifically, especially when I use the angle lasso tool, like there's a chance that it'll freeze up every time I use it, and if it does, like I just have to I just have to use Windows Task Manager to close everything. So yeah, that really sucks when it happens. Because a lot of times I forget to save before I start using the angle lasso because I'm like just so focused on stuff. All right, cool. So I think this is actually a pretty good sketch. Some slight proportional things that I still got to fix up a little bit, but overall, like you know, it's a pretty finished sketch. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna kind of get started. So if I really want to follow the process, we can kind of see over here. These are all where all the dark areas are, right? So if I did want to kind of block it in, here's what I would do. So let's see. So first things first, I'll make a new layer. Let's put this on. Let's make this a little bit brighter, kind of like that. And then before I even get started, let's do the background. So the background's going to be kind of like a grayer tone, kind of like this. Go back here. Let's grab some black or dark gray. Start kind of blocking in. Let's actually block in with a hard opacity. Let's keep things a little bit more organic this time.
Professor, if your brush opacity is 100%, how are you getting these, and it's the hard round, how are you getting these variations in opacity?
Oh, I'm using a hard round with opacity on, actually. So yeah, I have transfer on for this. So I have like a hard round, kind of like this, and then I have like another hard round that just kind of has like opacity. So if y'all are, I mean they're in the general brushes, but the ones that you can find, it should say a hard 100 and a soft 100, and then the other one that's just like a straight hard round would be a underscore dy on the top.
Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize if my naming is kind of like weird. It's just how I got the brushes and I never like changed them after. Okay. Start getting in my shadows. So the reason why we have these dark parts here is to just kind of define our light versus dark first. Kind of like what I was saying before. Before I start adding any other value, it's always light versus dark shapes first. So where is the shadow coming from? Like I know this is the cast shadow from the chin kind of coming down over here. Let's clean up my chin shape a little bit more. There we go. Let's get this part in. Fix up some proportions. Fix up more proportions. By the way, I'm here, everyone, just in case. I get a little bit quiet when I paint, so I apologize if I don't speak sometimes. Let's fix this up a little bit. Start getting the other cheek in. Rounds in this way. There we go. Let's get our eyeshadow. Eye socket right here.
Is this thing due next week or the week after next?
I think it's due the week after the next. Yeah, I give y'all like 3 weeks on this, or 2.5 weeks, something like that. Just because like these painting assignments take kind of long to do. Well, they can be. They can take long. It depends on the person, but yeah, but generally for me, like they take a little bit longer than the other ones. Especially if you really want to dive in and study these and like really try and get them to look the way they're supposed to. And what I mean by that is not making it look like the photo, but making it look, like a completed piece and like, just considering all of considering all of the little things in there and just trying to be a good artist and study these things. Like it can take a little bit of time. Actually, eyes can be pushed even more actually. A little bit more like that. And then we got all right. So this is looking pretty good. Just touch up just a little bit in some areas. All right, so I'm actually gonna stop with the blacks over here. The ears I'll do a little bit later. But what I'll do now is I'll make a new layer. I'll get some white, soft, and what I'll do is I'll start kind of pushing in light. So we're generally gonna have some light coming on the forehead, kind of like that. Some light coming onto the nose, the cheeks. Let's actually save this selection before I forget. Shadows, face. There we go. All right. Perfect. Start kind of pushing some light in other areas. Let's make this just a little bit lighter, kind of like that. There we go. Start to kind of bridge them a little bit. And for this, I'm just using a hard round with opacity. Something I would also do too for any value study is get your darkest darks and lightest lights in first. It's always good to have that, because once you get your darkest darks and lightest lights in first, you have them to kind of compare things with. Oh, also shouldn't zoom in so much. I always forget about that too. This is pretty dark over here. Okay, keep it like this for now. So we have something to reference. A lot of time when I'm doing portrait paintings and stuff, I actually like to stick to round brush most of the time. I don't like push beyond that too much. And then something that you also want to keep in mind too is be careful of rendering too much too. Because for the face, like it's very, very easy to like over render things. Okay, let's see. Well, let's start getting more of the hair too. So again, I'm looking at big shapes that I see value in. How is the light, what shape is the light on the forehead, represented by? The shape on the cheek, right here, the light and the shadow and the dark and all that. I'm simplifying it. Because again, the goal of whatever you're doing, like a painting or a sketch, the goal is to simplify into line, shape, whatever you really see. It's not about trying to make things look like the photo. It's about simplifying things. Because if you simplify things correctly, it's going to look like a photo. You know, all these things are just memory. Our head will fill in the gaps. If we understand what shape it looks like very, very roughly, and it's clear enough to us what it kind of looks like, we will determine it as that. It's part of being a good, I'm sure you all have heard before, art is kind of like doing magic, right? It's like, because we're all illusionists, right? We create the illusion of something on a drawn or created, represented on like a medium, on a surface. We use a surface, or we use something or some sort of material. We create something, and it'll look like something, right? Regardless of what it is. So part of being a good illusionist is understanding how to efficiently create the illusion. And that for form, it's shape, just good shapes, good silhouettes, good shadow shapes. Try not to zoom in again. Start getting some of this in. Once I start getting some of the shirt in, it's already going to look like a lot more complete. Play around with my brushes a little bit too while I'm at it.
Mr. Pop,
Yo, what's up?
when you're painting, do you usually focus more on opacity or transparent to do when you're doing painting?
I focus on all of them. So I focus on the I focus on the transparency of things. I focus on the opaqueness. I focus on the shape. So everything kind of matters. When I'm doing something more transparent, or I have like my pen pressure on, it's usually because I have to do some sort of pressure related thing. Whereas like if I'm turning off my pen pressure, it's to make like really bold statements with my brush work. So if I needed, yeah, so if I needed to like, I don't know, slightly transition something on his neck, then yeah, I would use something with like, more opacity on it. Something that's a little bit easier to blend with. Whereas like if I need to do something like very strong and say like I need to have a shadow there, and there has to be a shadow there, then that's where I'll use like a bolder brush to really like, bring out that part.
Alright, cool, thank you.
Uh-huh. And something I like to play around with a little bit, y'all, also is a flow. So up here with flow, we have 100 usually. I like to set it on 70 sometimes, and what that does is it gives you a little bit better of it makes your blending a little bit more butterier. Like it makes it a little bit smoother when you're trying to do like soft blends and stuff. And another thing it does too is it also brings out more texture when you have your flow a little bit lower. You can kind of think of it as like a felt tip marker, like a Sharpie that's kind of like running out of ink. You'll see a little bit more texture because there's a little bit less flow in the felt tip with less ink in there. If there's more flow, more ink would be coming out, and then we'd be able to get more opaque and wetter sort of like ink marks.
So what's the functional difference between flow and opacity?
Flow is more like determining how much of the paint is coming out, whereas opacity is just based off of flat transparency. So you could still have things at a lower flow, and as long as you kind of go over it a couple times, like it'll still turn like pretty dark. But if you have it at lower opacity, you have to lift your brush every time you want to make it darker because you're adding on top. Does that kind of make sense? It's kind of like when you're the difference between using a marker and then not lifting up your marker and just coloring over the same area multiple times, that's like more of how flow works. Whereas like opacity is like every time you put down your mark, it will stay at that opacity, but when you lift it and put it again, you can add more. So one is a little bit more organic, I would say.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. That's like kind of the way I've always thought about it. So hopefully that helps out. Start kind of working on more parts of the nose. On my opacity lower, no wonder. I was like, why is it so like light? Let's get my lightest light in there, just so I have something to compare things with. Yeah, I know I usually add highlights last, but in case some of you all forgot, sometimes I'll add my extremes in first just to use as like value indicators. So it kind of helps me just find out what value I should be kind of setting everything else at. Because other than like good shapes for a painting, the second thing most important is probably good values. You need good shapes, good values, and good form. Which is the same as good values and shapes together. The last thing for a painting that makes it really gorgeous is, I would have to say, is brushwork. If you have good values / form, good shapes, and then you have good brushwork. So as y'all can kind of see here, I'm not just like rendering stuff. Like everything I do, every time I move my brush, it's on purpose for a certain direction. It will help add more to the actual painting. If I don't get to the Leonidas one, I'll do it on Monday. So don't worry. You know, if anyone who's worrying that I won't get to the Leonidas one, don't worry. I'll get to it. I'm sure there's enough stuff to do this weekend, before I get to this, to the Leonidas one. So, feel free to work on all those things first. And, if you've already completed the other these ones and you're on the Leonidas one, I'm sure you know how to do it at that point. Because if you could do these two, then you could definitely do the Leonidas one.
How do you lighten up the black shaded areas again?
Lighten up the black shaded areas? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate for me?
Like when we painted the shading parts black, but then you just turned them gray. How did you do that?
Oh, I lowered the opacity of the layer. Yeah, I just lowered the opacity. That's it. Yeah, so this area was black before. It's on 73. At 100, it's like black. Does that kind of make sense? Hello? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, okay.
I don't know why you did so on the opacity again, because it looks like it's straight black on the reference.
Oh, it is, but as I was saying earlier, like I'm not following this step by step because this isn't my process. Yeah, my process is a little bit different. So I'm not like using this as like a, some sort of like portrait Bible. Like it's more here just to like help me find out what steps I want to take in order to reach the end goal. I guess you can kind of think of it as like kind of like what is it? In any situation, we just have to get from point A to point B. The only rules is no cheating, right? So no cheating and yeah, just no cheating in general. But as long as we get from point A to point B, it doesn't matter how we do it. So I lowered my opacity because it was easier for me to work that opacity in as kind of like values. So I'm actually using that as like my base shade for the dark part because not everything is black, you know. But so I use that to like kind of match more of my face shades first. And then I kind of work into that afterwards. So I'm working in my other values in there now. And then later I just made a new area for like the hair and the shirt. I mean, you could argue that you could do it the other way too and leave the hair in the shirt, but you know, this is just my way of doing things.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a way of painting portraits.
Uh-huh.
I am like level 0 drawing people. So, I mean, I guess the focus isn't really the person, it's when you paint it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I see that the guy gridded it out,
Mm-hmm.
and that might help me construct it too. So, I don't know. Right now, the focus seems to be all on painting. So, I really want to sort of painting and not have to worry about, oh my goodness, am I constructing the human figure right?
Yeah, I say don't worry about the the figure proportions too. If it's like a little bit off, that's totally fine. But you should be able to find out how to at least, you know, get it from point A to point B just using like, you know, drawing construction, like foundational drawing construction.
But every time I draw construction, it never looks right. Like I said, it's like with the animals, you know.
Uh-huh.
Show me an animal head, and the circle I start with is either too low, too high, too narrow, crooked. Like, can't seem to get the marks down confidently like you do. So, just get a little disillusioned when I watch you do these, and then I do it, and it's like, well, crap.
Oh man, well you'll get it. Don't worry. It just takes practice. It took me a while to get construction down too. Just because like I grew up like freehanding everything, like thinking like that was the way to go. So I had no idea what construction was until like I took like a proper art class. Yeah, it wasn't until I moved to California like where I learned like how to do that.
Not that I don't know what it is, it's just that just the way I perceive it, or hand-eye coordination, or something, just all screwed up. Just doesn't want to get the, you know, like I said, circle for the head, that's what you start with. Mine's always so goofed, so because it's goofed, everything else gets goofed. It's frustrating to say the
Well, if it helps for this one, y'all, you're welcome to always, what is it? Kind of put the reference under your picture and check and see if the proportions look good. So if I do like, you know, something like this, and then I go like this, oops, I go like this, you know, and make it bigger. Right? Y'all are always welcome to like kind of check and see, you know, how your proportions look, or if you needed to use this as kind of a way to start your drawing. You know, if you need to kind of sketch it in, right? You always practice kind of doing it this way. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll break it down into shapes by using and keep it transparent. So maybe like, you know, if I have to start off with a circle, it kind of gives me a better idea where that circle is. And then I kind of know where I'm supposed to draw things. This is the middle of my face.
you're not tracing it, you're just using it as a, you know, you're trying to draw the form inside of it.
Yes, this is a way to practice.
Huh.
But this is
It's like, oh, it's tracing, oh, don't do it. But that's not really tracing it.
this is still technically tracing, but then here's the next part that makes it a little bit more of practice than it's supposed to. So this is like the middle of my chest here. So after you're done kind of sketching out everything, you know, so let's just say like you practice doing the eyes too, you practice doing all that stuff, right? So this is his mouth, whatever. What you do afterwards is you make a new layer, or you make a new file, and you try to redraw your sketch, but without the background this time. This is how you practice construction, because it's really hard to break down stuff if you don't know what to break it down with. But if you can worry about construction and not proportion first, you can just focus on it this way. And then afterwards, you can just translate your picture onto a new canvas, and this doesn't count as tracing. And you will see a difference in, your drawing when you do this. It's going to be more accurate than it did your first iteration, probably. Probably not as, it will rather be as accurate as your tracing or closer to the accuracy of the tracing after your first attempt. But yeah, that's what I would recommend to do if, if you're like having a little bit of trouble. It's usually what I recommend. What is that? I actually have my youngest students do this kind of stuff a lot because they have a lot of trouble constructing, especially the ones that want to go into like OSHA or some kind of like private art school in their like high school life. I'm always just like, yo, you gotta learn how to construct, man. Like, how do you think? How do you? 'Cause I see him like freehand stuff all the time. I'm just like, yo, man, like, how are you gonna draw like, perspective? If I ask you to draw like a gazebo, you're gonna have to construct that, right? The constructing, so I always have them like draw out like the construction. Sometimes I'll have them like trace over a reference, and I'm like, okay, I want you to break down the whole reference into shapes and forms, and then they'll do that, and I'll be like, okay, now I want you to draw those shapes and forms. Simplify some of this stuff. So y'all can kind of see over here, slowly and surely, this is starting to look more and more like my portrait. My eyes are still too big, though. That's okay, I'll leave it like this for now. Start kind of...
I kind of feel like the Leonidas one might be easier than that.
The Leonidas one? That one's actually not that hard. It looks pretty hard, but every person I've assigned it to, like, has not really, like, they've all done a pretty good job. Like, it's not too hard, actually. This one has a lot of subtleties in it. Whereas, like, it's tough, man. It's tough, but it's good practice. My teacher always says.
You want hard edges some places, and one of the things that always bugs me about digital painting. You look at a digital painting, and there would be, you see this in most forms, anime you can see it a lot too. You would have like markings that are, one side of the mark made is hard edge, one side is soft, and there's like a gradient running down one side of it. How did you do that?
Well, you have to...
Controlling the hardness and the gradient and all that drives me bananas.
Well, let me show you, actually, because it's funny you said that, because I was just about to do something like that. So you actually want to take advantage of your selection tools, y'all. So this is how you're supposed to paint, okay? If you have traditionally painted before, especially in watercolor, you will be familiar with what's called masking fluid. All right. So think of it kind of like masking fluid, where if you cover up one part of your picture, it shouldn't affect that part of the picture if it's been covered up, right? So using your selection, I have covered up every part of the image except for this, and we can kind of see a small gradient here by the nose. So now that I have this selection here, I can add this gradient and it'll keep a hard edge by my nose over here. So that's how you kind of keep those hard edges, is that you want to make sure you create them with your selection tool. And then when I'm done, I'll deselect my selection tool, and I can keep on working.
Is there an order of operations that you do with this? Because again, like you would look at, I know I've said this many times, but you look at something like this, and you just get confused. Like, oh man, I got to draw the shadow here and the shadow here, and you're
Uh,
on the head, and then the feet, and the shirt, and the neck, and the hair, and then an eye. And it's like, well,
for
there's
all,
kind of looks crazy. I'd be tempted to go with, all right, I'm going to do hair first. Okay, get the hair done. I'm going to do the eyes next. Get the eyes done. I'm going to do the shirt next. Get that done. I look at it as part of the environment or the body or whatever I'm drawing, rather than I have to get all the shadows, the whole picture, then all the highlights.
yeah, so here's how you do it. Line slash shape first. So sketching first. Okay, always sketch with line first. 2, local value. 3, light side versus dark. 2 tones, light and dark. That's it. Okay? Number 4, value 1. So core shadows, reflective light, whatever that kind of stuff is, right? Then value 2, more core shadows. So you're pretty much just adding the extra values on top after. So getting that like 1, 2, 3 read, getting a 1, 2 read is really important first. Right? So we have our light side versus dark side. Then we have, like a value 2. So that's like a mid-tone maybe. And then value 3, which is like, I don't know, like a reflective light. And then so pretty much just adding in your like soft shadows and all that kind of stuff first. Afterwards. Nope.
You're just adding shadows to the midtone local value.
Yep, just like this. Exactly. Then value 1, value 2. This also includes cast shadows too. So don't forget about cast shadows when you're doing this part. No, you gotta have both, yeah. So then you can start working in all the other in-betweens. So I don't know, like the division here, and then maybe there's like a little bit of this over here, or whatever. And then we have like our reflective light over here, right? So that's all the values. Number 6. Oops. Detail. All right, so going in and just cleaning up. All right, just adding more detail.
Like texture and stuff.
Well, that would include like texture, more forms, subtle forms. And then number 7, which is the longest stage, polish. So these are the steps that I would take in order to do any sort of drawing, painting, graphic sort of like situation. It doesn't matter what it is. Like this is the exact order you follow things. General to specific. Always general.
Would color be under the detail or polish side?
Color will be in between 6 and 7. I would say, unless it's a value painting, then you just go straight to 7, obviously, But like but yeah, I would say a color comes after you're done with all of your values. You can do color before texture too. That's fine, but you must have values done before colors.
So you're taking those steps and doing it over the whole painting. So you're not moving on to the next step until after everything in that, picture plane is done. You're not like going into, okay, I'm going to start with the hair shape and doing all 7, and then going to the face and doing all 7, like the shirt. You're doing everything over the whole picture.
Generally, yes. Generally, that's what I'm thinking about. Do I always do it? No. I'm an organic painter. I'll jump from area to area, but but do I still think about it? Yes, I do. Like sometimes you'll see me start working on little parts of detail I'm not supposed to, but at the same time, like I am thinking about the whole picture in general. So, I'll get sucked into doing detail because that's just my imperfection. Like that's just who I am. Like I'm not supposed to, but I do that. But yes, I do think about all these things. I always jump back to it after, or I try to. So yes, I do follow these steps pretty rigorously. Do I always do it by habit? No, I'm not, that's my problem and I have an issue with not following them sometimes because I like to just go and have fun on like different areas of the painting. But, it is something that should be followed.
Okay. One thing I've noticed with some of the bigger paintings I've tried doing
Uh-huh.
is I would leave them alone for a while, and that's a huge mistake because I go back and say, "Whoa, crap! I forgot how I did that."
Oh man.
So
Yeah, that does happen sometimes. So it's always good to kind of keep the painting relevant while it's still there. It'll also make it easier to work on too, because if it's not relevant anymore, it's like sometimes it's like kind of a drag to work on, unless it's like something you were super passionate about before.
yeah, yeah. But I feel like just getting it all done and go with it while you have it.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can, but most of the time it seems like you can.
Hmm. Anybody have any questions on the portrait painting though, right now? No? Like, so yeah, I'm just kind of adding more values into things right now. I need to fix up my eye pretty bad though. It's like a little bit too big, but it's okay. It's not that much of an issue. Still looks like a pretty cool painting, so that's a good sign. Uh-huh.
With the polish section,
Yeah.
you know, chances, I'd say 99.9%, 99.9999999% of the time, I would not be doing anything super realistic.
Uh-huh.
But I would want to try to capture it, an art style or something that I've, drawn to.
Uh-huh.
The thing about that, though, is um, polish, I mean, theoretically, you could spend the rest of your life on one
Mm-hmm.
because you could just go in and, you basically be overthinking yourself into infinity.
Uh-huh.
So, like, what would you suggest against that? To, like, know that it's a polished piece and it's good enough. Because you're never going to be able to make something perfect.
So how do I determine when it's done polishing? Is like what you're kind of asking?
Yeah, yeah.
So so two things. First thing I'll do is I'll look at it from far away. If it looks good, it's done. The second thing I'll do is that I'll kind of know when it's too much is what is it? If I'm just kind of nitpicking stuff, like right now, like I'm at this stage of kind of like at the stage of polish and detail and value where I'm just like adjusting value still. And I still know what I'm looking for. If I'm starting to look for stuff and like for example, if I'm just staring at it and then I'll go and then every once in a while I'll change like a small thing or I'll change over the same place like 20 times, I'm probably finished with it. I'm probably done with it because at that point like it's what I call like a plateau. Like you've gotten as good as you can on this picture. It's time to move on. Like the only way to get better at it is to move on to another picture and then revisit this picture again after or later. So that's how I continue. Another thing to consider finish is what you're doing it for. If you're doing like a movie prop or a movie costume, it has to look photorealistic. because someone has to make it. So if you're doing like a 3D model, it has to be at a level of finish where there's no confusion on what they should be like. They shouldn't be going back to you and asking like, hey, what is this supposed to be? How come what is this area like supposed to look like? Like it has to be at that level of finish. So it really depends for that question. For personal things, it would be the first two answers. If I'm nitpicking stuff and there's not much more I can add on to it, I'm just trying to make it better, but I can't make it that much better within like a certain amount of time. Like if it takes me like 2 hours to make one part better, then I'm probably done with it personally on my own skill level. You know, Whereas like if I'm doing it for like a production, it depends on the production, depends on what kind of movie it is. It depends on what it's for, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for personal stuff though, like usually like if you're at a point where you're getting bored with the picture and you're already pretty much done with it, but you're just fixing like most of the time, I think that's pretty much done. And then when I'm doing these parts, I'm thinking about all these things, y'all, like reflective light, core shadow. In every sort of dark area, there should be a little bit of reflective light, mostly. This is looking really good. This is looking better than the last time I did this demo, which was like last semester, but it just makes me happy to see that because it just makes me happy to see that I'm improving too. Like not just with like art, but I think for like all subjects, it's so important to just improve. If you're gonna be like the best, like, if you're gonna be an accountant, or if you're gonna be like what else, like a dentist, or it's important for us to like still improve. Like the moment, my teacher and my boss always tells me the moment you feel like you know everything is the moment you start, becoming, it's the moment you feel like you're done. You're never gonna try and improve after that. So we always need that mindset, that there's room for improvement. And seeing improvement adds morale. It makes me more excited to draw because I know I'm good at it. I might not be the best at it, but it's something I know that I'm good at, you know, compared to other things that my friends and family might be good at too. But yeah, that morale is so important.
I guess the way I would gauge being good at drawing isn't necessarily like, can I like draw everything out of my head without doing construction lines perfectly, or can I draw people, super fast? I think that for my personal goal is, can I get this idea down, and can people understand what they're seeing, and does it
Mhm.
look good? Does it look pleasing? Does it look cool? It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be super fast or made without error or without construction lines or anything, but
Mhm.
if you're looking at this picture and you can tell, hey, this is some kind of crazy looking like, you know, swamp mansion or whatever,
Uh-huh.
then I've done my job.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or you see this creature I drew and you're like, oh man, that looks like a space goblin.
Mhm.
I've done my job.
Exactly. I feel you, man. I'm the same exact way. If my artwork evokes the emotion I want it to evoke, and or it does the job it's supposed to do, and people can tell what it is, that's all I ask for too. Seeing people smile for my artwork is also something I love.
Oh yeah.
Or scared, depending on the image, I guess. Yeah, I had some people dive into my image like way too much once. Like they started diving into like what is it? I have a picture of like that I drew that's like all these people like hanging from trees and stuff, and like I can show it to y'all really quick. It's an older picture now, but like someone started like diving into like how it's like representative of like history and all that kind of stuff. You know, it was
Oh
like
my goodness.
yeah, they were like going so crazy on it. Where is it? Yeah, this one over here. Like they were going into like about how this was like representative of our history and all that stuff, and like how like this it represents like the sorrow of how the people felt, and like I was like, I'm glad you said it was a sad feeling because I wanted it to be kind of sad, but I drew this because I just finished playing Dark Souls and I wanted to draw something that was kind of dark and medieval, like I
That
didn't.
that's oh my goodness. Did you ever watch South Park?
I love South Park. I know it's like really like
That
uh
episode
uh
where the boy wrote some like really disgusting book just for fun,
oh, I remember
and
that.
that was into all like the subtext and like, no, that's not why we're doing it.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
You know what's the funny part was like I tried to explain it to that person. I was like, hey, honestly, like I'm glad you're thinking that much about my art when you look at it, but I drew this because I played this game called Dark Souls. Have you ever heard of it? And then like she like totally ignored me and then kept going on and didn't believe me. She didn't believe me. And I was just like, dude, you don't believe what I have to say about my own art? Okay. Well, long story short, I just kind of walked away and I was like, well, if you like the art, let me know. You can buy it.
Yeah, I mean, people are always gonna read so far into intention.
hmm
It's just concept art. That's
hmm
it. It's not. I'm not trying to make some kind of statement.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm happy she enjoyed it though. She really liked the piece. She said she wouldn't hanging it up in her house, but that's fine. I understand. I wouldn't want a bunch of dead people pictures hanging up on my house either.
Yeah,
But
that's not really something I would have as a focal point.
hmm yeah, my sister's boyfriend wanted to buy the picture after because he really loves that picture, but my sister was like, "No, we're not hanging that up in the house. It's not cute." So I gave her a different picture instead that she really liked. That was a lot happier.
See,
Anyways, this is like pretty much almost done on the right side. The left side is pretty much the same exact thing, you know, except with like slightly different values. But does anyone have any questions about today's like sort of a digital painting exercise and like my process and how I kind of break things down?
I might have to email you, like when I get to this project
Okay.
and I get to a certain point and just kind of ask like, is this done enough? Because again, if you've seen the work that I'm been turning in, I like if a simple animal drawing takes me like 2 hours, how long is it going to take you? So I think I might need to communicate with you on this one in particular.
Yeah, yeah.
Point and say like, is this good enough? Because I don't want to spend the rest of the semester painting this.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my
yeah.
problem.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally fine. If you same for everyone here. If you're not sure if the level of completion is up to par to like what the submission should be, feel free to email me and like ask me, should I work on this more or not? I don't give a what is it feedback usually on like email, but that's really easy to give feedback on. It's just a yes or no question. I'll rather be like work on this part more or you're done. And then if you're not sure which part to work on more, that's when you should what is it set an appointment. So so yeah, just good for everyone to kind of know. If you have any questions, feel free to email. I'm always here for y'all. Also, again, if you have any questions on your project too or want to paint over, make sure to email me for appointments too. This week is booked up. I just gave away the last one this morning to one of y'all here for the week. So if you all need help, if you need an appointment, feel free to email me and we can set one for next week. Man, portraits are so fun to paint. I love painting portraits. All right. So I'm gonna stop over here actually. Like I said, the left side is just as it's the same thing as the right side, but just like with slightly different slightly different form subtleties and things like that. But if you know how to paint the right side, you can paint the left side. But so I'm just gonna kind of quickly go over what is it? Some last couple reminders before I let y'all go, and then I'll let y'all go a little bit early today. Yeah. So don't forget. Okay. Next Monday, I'm gonna put up a discussion board. All right. It's gonna be where you put your thumbnail iterations for project 3. You're gonna need 4 color iterations. All right, 4 different color iterations. You can use the same color scheme and like mix them up if you want. That's fine with me. But your color iteration should be pretty obvious, okay? I was kind of lenient about it last project, but this project I'm going to be pretty like intense about this. But your color iteration should show differences. A lot of value iterations I saw were barely different from each other, if I have to be completely honest. Like a lot of them were like almost the same thing, but slightly darker or slightly lighter. Some of y'all did a really great job though on that. Some of y'all like really, really made each value iteration like a different kind of light source and a different kind of lighting situation, or you mixed up the local values of something and kept the same light source, so it looked a little bit, it looked different. All right, I expect these, especially with color, for each a color iteration to look pretty obviously different from each other. Like even if you use the same color scheme, it shouldn't be like, oh, it's the same color hair, the same color skin. Like if I'm doing this person, for example, oh, I want him to have black hair, I want him to have peach skin, I want him to have a black shirt, and I want him to have blue eyes. For number 2, I want red eyes, but everything's the same. It shouldn't be like that, okay? It should not be like that. It should be a good amount of change because this part is not about finishing. It's about exploring. All right. And if you're not doing enough exploration, you're not going to find all of the treasure that, is within this sort of assignment. All right. So think about it like this. The more exploration you do and the crazier your explorations are too, the more of a chance you'll find something that is not just only cool, but also original. All right. So just food for thought. But yes, you had a question, John?
Well, yeah, with the color iteration.
Yeah.
2 things.
Uh-huh.
First thing, the mood board that goes with it.
Uh-huh.
I've already kind of established my mood, but can I find some experimental moods too, like maybe a night scene instead of daylight?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And on top of that, when I do my like part of the color, can I tweak some of the values and some of the say if I wanted to try a night scene, I would definitely have to darken this area differently, or if I wanted to do a maybe like turn it into something spooky,
Yeah.
I would have to have different colors, different lights there.
Yeah.
So, would that be a good thing?
You can try it out, but I would say since we already established your values, as long as they stay close within like the way it kind of looks, I think it's okay to adjust it. But if you're gonna change something like very dramatically, I would say maybe to stay away from that because it will take a bit of time to do, if that makes sense. Like usually, I guess for this process, it would have been good to test those out more via value. Because we didn't like just jump into that. We kind of made this like a step-by-step process. If you really, really want to give it a shot, you're welcome to try it out. I think like just one thumbnail iteration of like something dramatically different is fine. But then definitely keep like the other 3 more grounded into like what you've kind of set it as already.
Yeah, I might not do a dramatic change. I was just thinking like more slight changes.
A slight is okay. If it stays around the family of values or like, it looks like somewhat similar in terms of like, the way everything is kind of organized and assigned looks, I think like keeping it that way is a little bit will be a more of a load off of everyone's shoulders. And it'll also let y'all focus more on the assignment of colors versus like having to like go and like redo so much of it already. But yeah, within your power and within like your ability, like go for it. I would say just don't do too much of it. Like if anything, like if you really want to do more of it, be my guest. But definitely have maybe like 3 to 4 like thumbnails within those that are just like the same value as your project 2, but different color schemes. Awesome. So any other questions before I let y'all go for today? No? Okay, so don't forget thumbnails on Monday. If you have any questions, email me. Okay, set an appointment with me if you need a draw over or paint over for your project 2. I will throw these files onto Canvas. Okay, so you'll have these 2 paintings there. On Monday, I'm going to go over stamping, and I'm going to go over creating thumbnails with stamps. So that's going to be really fun. And then afterwards, we'll probably jump into doing the Leonidas painting. And then I was thinking on Wednesday, I'll probably start doing some like teach y'all how to like start touching up some of those thumbnails. Yeah, so taking your thumbnail, the colors of your thumbnail, putting them on like a final sheet, like tightening up the colors, really, really adding effects. If I have time, like photo textures on top, stamp textures, all that kind of stuff. And then my plan is to probably try and do like one of each time of day. So maybe like a night scene, a morning scene, and like an afternoon scene, something, or like a sunset scene more, like a sunset for like afternoonish. So those 3 kind of things, not by Wednesday, but like throughout the next couple of meetings, like we'll just probably finish up like the stamping exercises and stuff and start focusing more on like the project like refinement, followed by some lab. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. If you have no more questions, you're welcome to leave. I do have an appointment I have to get to right now. So if you have like really quick questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, that's pretty much it.
So the thumbnails are for project 3, like the 4 different types of color?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
for project 3.
Okay.
All right, have a good one.
Well, Professor Pop, I got a question.
Sure, what's up?
Can you send me the PSD that we were doing yesterday?
The PSD?
Yeah, for the one you're doing for the landscape thing.
It's on Canvas. I can't send it on email because the file is too big. So you're gonna have to download it off of Canvas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay to do that for me?
Oh, you have to do it from your computer. I can't do it for you. Yeah. You have to go on Canvas. You have to go to the module, and you got to click on the demos, and then you can download it from there. Yeah, I can't send it over via Canvas or anything like that. It's already on Canvas.
Okay, I'll go
Mm.
check that out. Alright, thank you so much.
Uh-huh. All right. Have a good one.
Sure, you too. Bye.
Bye. Uh-huh. Bye. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.
Professor?
Yo, what's up?
Hey, for the Friday, the critique for the Friday we planned on.
Yeah.